And here's some of the things that I noticed as I was walking around. For one, if you ever have kids right in class, you might notice that some of them find it very easy, and some of them automatically just kind of go to it, and they just go and go and go, and they don't even notice when the timer goes off, or when you say, okay, it's time to stop. They have that one more thought that they still want to get down. And then you've got some other kids who need some space and some time to think, and they might not necessarily do it with the pen or pencil moving. They might look as though they're kind of staring off into space a little bit. That's okay too. Because if you gave them the prompt, if they're thinking about it, maybe it's not quite making it to the paper all of the time, but you're giving them space and time to think, which is a really valuable thing to do in a class period. Okay? So as long as you see that every once in a while they're getting back to it, then okay. Sometimes you need to pause and reflect for a minute and then get some other stuff down, as long as they're not censoring themselves. That's what you don't want them to do, is to say, oh, well, nothing that I say or nothing that I have to write is good enough, so I'm not going to bother to put down anything. That's when you've got a problem and you need to kind of go in and intervene. But anyway, so I saw people doing kind of a combination of those things, but mostly, to me, the 5 minutes felt really short. I don't know about you guys. What I'd like you to do is take a look back through your resolutions. Some of you might have a pretty long list there, others a little bit shorter. But think about which ones of those make the most sense to you professionally. Okay, like take a look and maybe put a star next to one or two of them where you go, this is something that isn't too daunting. This is something that is manageable, that I think I can tackle, that I can set some milestones to actually get to that point maybe, or something that I can start putting into practice now and seeing how it works out. Maybe put a star next to those things. Yeah, just the professional for now. I mean, you can also do one for the personal if you want, and then kind of have that in the back of your mind. Okay, and we're going to revisit those a little bit later on. So you folks can go ahead and just flip them over. As I said before, these are private. You're not going to be sharing them out today. We're going to move on. Okay, so the next step, next thing that we are going to do is we're going to talk about the whole thing that's the focus of our work today, and that is POP. So if you could for me, please, each of you needs to grab one of these out of the bucket. Please go ahead and take one of these. And then also, take one of these buff colored sheets as well. So everybody needs their own copies.
It'd be interesting to go back and
Okay, so there's a couple of things that are going on here. For one, like I mentioned earlier, for some of you, this is going to be revisiting sections of that article on the observation process. So you might have read this information before, some of you. For others of you, it'll be brand new. I took a tally during our last PD session. I think 20 of you chose the POP article, and 15 or so chose the writing one. So for 15 of you, it'll be new. But that's okay, either way. Now, another thing that's really important to think about, and I'm going to see if I can get this to work. Is when I was down at Mountain Vista High School, we did a lot of work around critical thinking, and it was a big push for, I'd say, about 2-3 years maybe. And under my principal, Steve Johnson, we did a lot of really good work around that, and on the fact that if you, bless you, if you weave some of these tools and terminology into your daily routine and into your daily classes, not only does it make it so it's more student-centered, I mean, honestly, to me, it just made it more fun. It made it more authentic. So with critical thinking, I think I put the link on the website. Yes, I did. Here it is. It's over here, somewhere, maybe. Yeah. This is on my website, so you guys can access this anytime you want to, but there's lots of different things that go into it. Now, the Jeffco model is a little bit different than the model that we did down in Douglas County. but it's all pretty much the same. Some of the terminology has changed, and maybe a couple of aspects are added to the Jeff Cohen, I think. But this is the one that we use down at Mountain Vista, or very similar to this. So we have the whole thing with the elements of thought. And so you have purpose as something to kind of keep in mind. You have question, information, interpretation and inference, concepts, assumptions, implications, and consequences and point of view. And so you might not necessarily refer to all of these things throughout a lesson, or you might not use all parts of the wheel, as we called it, in a lesson, but you would probably wind up using a good handful if you started thinking about it. Like for us today, we are going to be using information, okay? So information, which is data, facts, observations, and experiences, and our information is largely going to come from the excerpts from the article. Now, some of the things that you folks are going to be doing while you're working with various partners is you're going to be questioning some, so you'll be doing that. You will also be making inferences. You might be making a few assumptions. And so those are some of the elements of thought that are going to be involved in here. Now, if you go to this actual website, which is linked right here, it's kind of cool because what you can do is if you want to know more about a particular element, all you have to do is hover over it. Like if we want to know more about questions, then there we go, state the question. Information, gather information, and so on. So it kind of helps you think through your lesson a little bit and what you're trying to accomplish and how to weave in this critical thinking piece. And this is something that is definitely cross-curricular. So if you're interested, that's something that's linked for you. Anyway, but today what we're going to do is you folks are going to be developing appointment times. So you won't be working with the people that you're sitting with currently. In fact, you are not allowed to work with anyone in your pop group today. So sorry, okay? Instead, I would also like it if you would try to avoid people who are in your department, okay? Try to work with people who you don't normally get a chance to talk to in the regular work week and that kind of stuff. Reach out to some people that maybe you don't know very well and try to schedule with them. So basically, on the back of your 3-column note sheet, go ahead and flip this over. Now what you're going to do, of course I don't have a pen, thank you, is I don't care how big you draw it, it doesn't matter. And draw yourself a circle, okay? And this is your clock. I know you really can't see it at all, it's just awful.
Change the contrast.
So we'll do it over here. Okay, so you got your circle, right? And on your circle, please write 12, 3, 6, and 9. And this is a handy tool that I learned back in Broward County, I think it was, back in Florida. And I've used this pretty much every year since. It's a fun way to get kids to talk to other kids in the class and to move things around. So basically, you're going to need to have a partner for each appointment time. You already know what you're going to be talking about. At 12 o'clock, you're going to be talking about this first section here, which is called a different approach. At 3 o'clock, you're going to be talking about looking for data in all the right places, and so on, okay? If you notice, though, there is also this attached sheet, which I threw in, and even though it's an observation model for a different, this is for doctors, or yeah, it comes from the 2010 Health Sciences Summer Teaching Institute. All kinds of people do peer observation and get a whole lot out of it, so I thought this was kind of relevant, and I decided to tie this in. But this one goes with your 6 o'clock appointment. So 6 o'clock, it says, here's your little excerpt from the article, but then you have, see attached handout called 12 Tips for Peer Observation of Teaching from Temple. So you can go ahead and go back to that. You might also notice as you skim through here that I was very attached to some of those questions that I wrote for you guys for scaffolding purposes from the last session. And since we didn't get to go and visit those, some of the ones that were more relevant, I decided to tack on to some of these excerpts. So with 6 o'clock, you'll see that you also have a question to ponder. It's not necessarily to answer in writing, but it's something you might want to discuss with your partner. And then for 9 o'clock, there's another question to ponder, and so on. Okay? So anyway, we're going to take about 2 minutes. Remember, no POP team members, and try to stay away from department members as well. What you are trying to do is fill all 4 appointment times. Make sure to write down the person's name on your sheet, and vice versa. And then just return to your seat in 2 minutes' time once you've got all your partners. Okay, go ahead and go.
12 o'clock.
Now you're walking. Wait, I was where I not you, so we're just doing partners now. All right, Brian.
All right, thanks, buddy.
Stand the not for me. I already did. Aye, right?